what's going on, guys? It's J-Mass, and today I'm out here in the quiet town of Westford, Massachusetts. Now, I'm personally very familiar with the town of Westford, Massachusetts. Having grown up in the area my entire life, I've been to Westford hundreds of times over the years. Now, Westford, it's a really calm and chill and relaxed suburban town. In fact, when you think of suburban Massachusetts, you're probably thinking of towns like Westford. You know, not a lot of crazy stuff goes on over here. For lack of a better term, Westford, Massachusetts is an ordinary town. But despite all that, here in this ordinary suburban neighborhood in Westford that I'm currently standing in, just a few dozen yards away from me, is a roadside attraction that could perhaps change the way we view early American history. Why don't I go show you? To show you how seemingly random this roadside attraction is, why don't you guys come take a walk with me? We're gonna walk along the sidewalk, along this busy suburban road in this ordinary suburban town, and make our way over to what a lot of people consider a piece of history that disproves what we currently know about early American history. So join me as we make our way over. All right, guys, and here it is. This little roadside monument right here, to a lot of people, proves that Europeans actually set foot on this specific part of Massachusetts prior to Columbus, prior to 1492. This monument posits that it was actually the Scots who came here in 1398. And underneath this little monument right here, there's supposedly an engraving that shows a sword and a shield, and a lot of people think that that's a grave with a Scottish nobleman, Sir James Gunn, buried underneath. So we're going to get into all that, the history, the details, and what I believe is the pseudo-history of this location. It's really interesting, and a lot of people, as you can tell by the statue, call this place the Westford Knight. So let's go into the history of the Westford Knight here in Westford, Massachusetts. A very random yet fascinating location here in suburban Westford. The legend behind this monument goes as follows. In 1398, Scottish nobleman Henry I Sinclair, Earl of Orkney, joined by his band of explorers and knights, traveled across the North Atlantic and stumbled upon the Americas. They explored what is now modern-day Nova Scotia and New England, before heading further inland into what is now Massachusetts. The theory further speculates that, while surveying the landscape, a member of the crew died. This knight, often theorized to be Sir James Gunn, was promptly buried in a makeshift grave, marked by a rock with an etching of a sword and a shield atop it. The date of his death would have been 1399, and the burial location is this very spot in what is now Westford. Now, to make it abundantly clear, this is nothing more than a fringe pseudo-historical theory. What we do know is that Norsemen, also known as the Vikings, first landed on Newfoundland in the 11th century, over 1,000 years ago, although their settlement was short-lived. Several hundred years later, in 1492, Christopher Columbus landed on the island of Guanahani, setting the stage for the age of European exploration and colonization. However, there is no concrete evidence that Henry Sinclair and his band of Scottish explorers ever set foot in the Americas, let alone in 1398. So that begs the question, why exactly do some people think that the Scots visited Westford, Massachusetts in the late 14th century? First, we have to take a look at the rock carvings. The primary artifact here at the Westford Knight Monument is the supposed grave, which is essentially a large glacial boulder that some believe displays a sword and a shield. I'll give you guys a close-up of this rock and its etchings, so you can see for yourself and draw your own conclusions. Now, I'll be honest, I do see both the sword and the shield in this rock. Having trouble seeing it for yourself? Check out this crudely drawn stenciling I made. This right here, in red, is the supposed sword, and this, right here in yellow, is what is believed to be the shield. Some people argue that they can see an entire knight etched into the stone, but sadly, I could not make that out for myself. Now, let's delve into the confirmed history of this boulder, along with this entire site, from subject of speculation to landmark and monument. The carvings were first mentioned in text back in 1874, written by Elias Nason in the Gazetteer of Massachusetts, where he states the carving as, quote, a rude figure supposed to have been cut by some Indian artist. Just a few years later, in 1883, the town of Westford described the stone carving as, quote, rude outlines of the human face have been traced upon it, and the figure is said to be the work of Indians. As you can see, in the late 19th century, the primary consensus was that Native Americans had carved figures into this boulder. But this theory would not last for long. The first mention of the stone carvings being of European origin came from William Goodwin, an insurance executive who owned the America's Stonehenge tourist attraction in nearby Salem, New Hampshire, a site which itself carries dubious pseudo-historical claims. In 1946, Goodwin described the carving as a broken Viking sword, as written in his book, The Ruins of Great Ireland in New England. A few years later, in 1954, the president of the Archaeological Society of Connecticut, Frank Glynn, argued that the carvings displayed the full figure of a knight with a sword and shield. T.C. Lethbridge, an English archaeologist, suggested that the figure was not a Viking, but a 14th century knight from Britain. The following decades produced further theories and speculations about the stone carving's origins, but many have gravitated towards the theory that it was a grave, marking the burial site of someone from Henry Sinclair's party. The knight often believed to be buried underneath is Sir James Gunn of the Clan Gunn, one of Scotland's oldest clans, who also happened to be a Knight Templar. If you're wondering how this theory came about, look no further than Raymond Ramsay's 1972 suggestion that, quote, English heraldic experts consulted by Lethbridge definitely identified arms on the shield as belonging to the Sinclairs of Scotland. Once again, however, I cannot stress enough that these are all theories. As of 2026, the year I'm recording this, there have been no concrete discoveries or explanations for this carving, or the site as a whole. Experts tend to disagree with the speculation that it is the grave of a knight, let alone that any knights had traveled to Westford in 1398. Plus, one thing to keep in mind is that this ledge was likely covered under many feet of soil at the time. The monument you see now, which sits off the side of the road on Depot Street in a quiet suburban neighborhood, was first erected in 1976 to commemorate the legend. This granite memorial plaque may be difficult to read, as it is significantly weathered and covered in lichen, so I'll read it to you verbatim. It states the following: Prince Henry I Sinclair of Orkney, born in Scotland, made a voyage of discovery to North America in 1398. After wintering in Nova Scotia, he sailed to Massachusetts and, on an inland expedition in 1399, to Prospect Hill to view the surrounding countryside, one of the party died. The punch hole armorial effigy, which adorns this ledge, is a memorial to this knight. There is another plaque at the monument as well, which details the history of the site, both confirmed and speculated. According to this plaque, the aptly named Westford Knight and its carvings have been featured on many television programs and documentaries, and have become quite famous within the realm of historical speculation. It also delves into the history of the monument itself, from 1976 up until the most recent edition, beginning with preservation work in 2014. Perhaps the most iconic feature of this monument is the bronze knight sculpture, officially placed in 2015, depicting the knight who many believe to be buried underneath, or shown in the rock carving above. This knight can be seen lying on a granite slab, his eyes closed, as he falls into an eternal slumber. Today, the Westford Knight Monument serves as a strange roadside attraction for those interested in both historical speculation and mysterious oddities. Situated directly on the side of the road, the only way to get to it is by walking along the sidewalk, as you saw in the beginning of the video. My best suggestion is to park at the nearby Abbott Elementary School, which is actually where I filmed the introduction at, just a few dozen yards away. Depending on the season, there may be a protective cover over the carvings to protect them from the elements, but you can kneel down and peek inside to catch a close glimpse of the famous carvings. Now, what do you guys think? Do you believe that Henry Sinclair and his band of Scottish noblemen explored what is now modern-day Westford, Massachusetts all the way back in 1398? Do you believe that Sir James Gunn is buried underneath that very monument that we just explored? I personally don't. Now look, I'm an avid lover of history. I'm a history appreciator. I do a lot of my own research in history. And from what I can tell, there's just no concrete historical basis or evidence or proof that the Scottish ever visited the Americas prior to 1492 when Columbus first visited. Now look, we do know that Europeans visited the Americas prior to Columbus. I mean, look no further than the Vikings. The Vikings came to the Americas long before Columbus. But the Scottish, much less in 1398, I just don't believe it. There's no concrete historical evidence or proof that the Scottish ever came to the Americas, much less Westford, Massachusetts, prior to 1492. It's a really interesting speculation to have. It's fun to think about and theorize, but to me, that's all it is. It's a theory, and frankly, it's pseudo-history. There's just no history or historical basis. And until that arises, I just don't believe it. I'm sorry to burst your bubble if you're into that stuff, but again, to me, it's just a theory. It's just pseudo-history. But again, it's fun to speculate about, and it's a fun site to visit here in Westford, Massachusetts. And that, of course, was the Westford Knight, the supposed gravesite of Sir James Gunn, a member of Henry Sinclair's band of Scottish noblemen. And I hope you guys had a great time checking it out with me. Honestly, if you have your own opinions or beliefs about that place, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it, maybe even debate a little. But yeah, guys, that's about it for today. That is the Westford Knight here in Westford, Massachusetts, a random roadside attraction in an ordinary suburban neighborhood. I've been J-Mass as always. If you love checking out sites in New England, exploring New England, all that stuff, I'm always doing that on this channel. So feel free to subscribe to the channel. I do want to give a major shout out to all my channel members. You guys are awesome. And I'd love it if you too, a viewer of this video, considered becoming a channel member as well. You'd be supporting me and the channel directly, and I truly appreciate it. Or you can follow me on Instagram at JMassOfficial. That's at JMassOfficial. But I've been J-Mass as always. This was the Westford Knight in Westford, Massachusetts. And yeah, that's about it for today. Now I'm gonna go and do a little bit of my own exploring. Maybe in fact, I will find something that proves that there were European settlers here long before Columbus, long before the Vikings even. And maybe then I'll become rich and famous. All right, catch you guys later. See ya.